Hola, estudiantes. I know you wanted me to say hello in a different language because you're used to that. So I'll do my best to do that for you. But today you're going to watch this video 3.6, solving decimal equations. Very similar to solving equations with whole numbers. Even some of the equations that you'll start with will have whole numbers in them, but your answer will end up being a decimal. The main thing today is making sure that you line up the decimals when you add them or subtract them, that you line the decimals up. But also in your answer, it's going to ask you to the nearest hundredth or to the nearest tenth. So make sure you pay attention to that. Remember, you're looking at the number behind it to whether it should round up or stay the same. So if it says round to the nearest tenth, you're actually looking at the hundredth to determine what should happen to the 10th digit or the 10th number. And if it's to the hundredth, you're actually looking at the thousandths to determine what that number should be as well. And we'll go over that. So here we go. So if you round for the final answer and round to the nearest hundredth. So very similar to all the other equations you've been solving so far, our goal is to isolate that x. So how are we going to get that x alone? We're going to take the inverse operation. Okay, and remember, I know that in the Edpuzzle it stopped and then you'd have a question. That will not happen on this video, so you're taking notes as I'm taking notes. Okay, so this should be all written down in your notebook. So video 3.6. Divide by negative 3/8, or I'm sorry, negative 38, not 3/8, sorry. So remember, our coefficient is a 1, and that's our goal. And this would equal a negative 4.1315789447. So the main thing is here, remember, go back up here, it says to the nearest hundredth. So the hundredth place is actually the 3. So we're going to look at the thousandths place to tell us what to do with the 3. And actually 1 is under 5. So remember, we're just going to stay the same, then we are not rounding up. So our answer is negative 4.13. Okay, and I would use a calculator on this. I'm okay with you using the calculator. So make sure you have your calculator in class. You can use your calculator for this video. The main thing is that you understand how to round on this. Okay, so we subtract 43. So 24x, these cross each other out, equals 23. Divide by 24, and you get the x equals 0.9583, and then the 3 is on a repeat all the way out. But remember the hundredth. So this is what we need, but the 8 on the thousandths tells us to round that up. So our answer is actually 0.96. So now you could plug that back in to check, just like we did before. You could plug it back into the equation to check. You won't get exactly 66 because this is a decimal, it's not a whole number. Okay? Because you can see if I plugged in, since 0.96 is so close to 1, if I plugged 1 in for x, I'd actually be given 67 equals 66. And we know that's not true because, 67 does not equal 66, but this is 0.96. So they're kind of looking, for that just close enough number that's there with the decimals. So you could plug that back in. You still won't get exactly, 66 because you're cutting the decimal off. You're taking to the nearest hundredth, but just so that it's around that answer. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I can answer that question in class. But you can still check your work even on the decimals. Okay. So now, big thing here, to the nearest tenth. So we still want to get the x alone. We want to isolate it. Oops. See, I made a mistake on that. So what we notice here is there's an x here, x here. So I need to get this x over on this side. And remember I said at the beginning, make sure your decimals line up. But those x's would cross off, so I'd still be given a negative 37.9 equals, and when you subtract that, you have a negative 3.3x. So divide by negative 3.3. And then you get your positive 1x, which we're hoping for, equals, we get a negative 11.4848, and the 4/8's on, I keep repeating. Sorry, my pen keeps on cutting off here. It's a 4. So this is to the 10th. So we're rounding to this spot right here, so we have to look at the 100th place, which would tell us to round up since this is an 8 and it's greater than 5. So we get a negative 11.5 equals x. Excuse me, sorry about that. So again, you can plug your answer back in to check it if you'd like. Again, you won't get the exact number on both sides of the equal sign here. Remember, we want to make sure that this is balanced at the end. You won't get the exact one because we are rounding, but if you plugged in negative 11.5 in for x on both sides, you would see that the answers are near each other. Okay, so let's solve this other one. So if we added the 0.9 over 2.4x equals 13.3, divide by 2.4, x equals 5.5416, and the 6 repeats. So again, we're going to the nearest 10th. So we look at the 100th, and the 4's on tells us to stay the same. So 5.5. And again, check your solution to see. Okay, so today, very similar to what we've been working on. Solving equations. But you have decimals and you're going to be given a decimal solution. Make sure you pay attention to the directions before you answer so you know which decimal place to take it to. So if you have any questions after watching this video, please let me know. But again, it's not similar to Edpuzzle where it stops with questions. Just make sure that you jot down all the notes that I have given you, okay, with each step of the problems. So what I'd like you to do is come in with answers to these questions, and then we'll go over this in class. So you're solving for x, and you're solving for n, okay? And I didn't tell you what to round to, so why don't we round this one to the nearest 100th, and this one to the nearest 10th. Okay, so number 1 to the nearest 100th, and number 2 to the nearest 10th. Again, if you have any questions, email me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you soon.